Hey, Goddess, welcome to our podcast. Today we are talking about a very important topic, toxic positivity. But first, let me introduce who you're looking at on your screen right now, these two goddesses. This is my beautiful soul sister, Angie K. She is the author of Creation Codes, Rise of the Goddess, Navigating Spiritual Awakening and Kundalini Energy, which is an amazing book. If you are looking for an Ascension guidebook full of compassion, personal trauma, and triumph, it is very raw and real. And tips on how to reclaim your goddess energy, the link is going to be in the description below. She is a goddess CEO, divine feminine embodiment, and law of attraction coach, and a master sound activator. I have personally received several sound healing sessions, and they are magical. To see more of Angie K and everything else she offers, her website is also going to be linked below. It is angiek.world. And so I am Wendy Liu. I am a writer, published author, professional editor, and copywriter. I am a Reiki master, all around energy magician, according to Angie, and a homeschool mom. And to see more of what I offer, my website is also linked below, but it is wendy-liu.com. So, like I said, toxic positivity. And we've had this on our list for a little while, and then it was coming really strong for me. And so I remember we talked about it last time when we were both like, yes, let's do this topic. And we were just getting together, kind of making some notes, and I'm like, God, there's not going to be a whole lot. And then as we dove in, we were like, this is big. This is a big topic.
Yes, there was a lot.
Go
Yeah,
for it.
I
Yeah.
I wrote down about 10 things
I know
having
we
to
both
do
have
pertaining
notes.
to toxic positivity. Yeah, it's so
It's a big
big.
one. And I do
Yeah,
think it's coming strong for the collective right now.
it
So,
is. I think it is. Let's maybe start by, I think our definitions always help at the beginning in case someone's not
yeah.
familiar with the words we use.
Yes,
So
true.
when we're referring to toxic positivity, it's not that we're saying that positivity is toxic. We're
Right.
saying that when positivity is used to bypass your human experience or your human emotions or looking at situations from a true and honest perspective, then it can become toxic and it can become harmful to you in your life and to your energy field and to your growth. So that's what we're talking about today. We are all for being positive. We don't
Right.
think that it's
Yes.
a bad thing. We only are bringing light to something that we've both experienced. And this absolutely can happen. And it's such an important thing to know about, especially in spiritual circles, because it can be something that comes up, especially like you said, the bypassing, and we'll talk about the bypassing
Right.
too.
And I think a lot of times it's one of those things that's kind of sneaky. You're not aware you're doing it. And sometimes somebody else has to point it out to you, or you get to the other side of something and go, oh my gosh, I was like totally trying to love and light that thing to death. Instead
Yes.
of, instead of really digging into the, and so, and we were talking about this. I think we all, as light workers, way showers, wanderers, whatever term you, star seeds, whatever term you resonate with, I feel like so many of us, maybe all of us, have to kind of go through that space where we're like, no, I'm going to be positive all the time because negative feels bad, right? Because these emotions that we have deemed to be negative, we don't like how those feel. So we're just going to rise above, right? We're going to rise above, which can be even kind of a toxic advice if you think about it. Like if there's something in there for you that you're being asked to look at and you're just trying to stay above it, then you're not facing the shadows that are trying to come up for you. And so that's, yeah, in a nutshell, that's what we mean by toxic positivity. Positivity itself can be a beautiful tool, right, for growth and along this path. And of course, even toxic positivity is part of the process. It's all
Yeah,
everything works for the light. So as long as
it
we remember.
does. I love what you were saying there. Definitely. I'll speak a little bit to my experience if that's okay, and then maybe you could
Yes.
share you because I know we both have a deep experience around this. So I remember for me, just tiny recap on, kind of where I even came to the whole positive thinking world in the first place was I had a lot of trouble ever feeling things because I was so empathic. And I know a lot of listeners could relate to this. I was so empathic. So every time I felt something, I felt it so deeply that the reflection I would get from other people it was almost scary to people that I felt so deeply. Like it was just like, don't do that. My family, like, why are you crying again? Like, don't feel so much. We don't like it. It's uncomfortable for the people in my life. And so I remember slowly throughout my, younger years, and then as I moved into my teens and my young adult, to just shut down the depth
Hmm.
of my feeling, right? Because I'm a Pisces. I'm at the very end of the zodiac, right? Wendy and I
Yeah.
talk about this a lot. Like
Wrapping it up.
I'm almost like the last date of the Pisces, right? Like, so I'm really, really deep. And and I didn't celebrate that about myself, and no one else did either, right? And there was not that much known about empaths. Like, there's everything that you can find
Right.
now just was unknown.
None of those
And
terms were used when we were
yeah, none
kids.
of them.
Yeah. Mm.
Later on in life, I was sitting on this mountain of unexpressed emotion and I didn't know it. And I moved into the world of manifestation and mindset and learned about positivity, which is a great tool, an amazing tool for manifestation, right? Because you're going to assume all of these things are happening. And it's through that law of attraction and law of assumption that you're attracting to yourself all these great experiences. And a lot of that has to do with your thinking, you're holding the highest vision, which is a positive vision for your life, right? And that's great. And that is exactly how it should be done. Except that a lot of times people don't tell you when you do that, whatever is not congruent in your energy field with that vision is going to come up for release. And so
Right.
then people
Right.
think, oh, I don't understand. Why am I feeling the opposite of this thing that I'm attracting? Now I feel sad. Now I feel it's because there's a gap between where you are now in your frequency and where you want to be. And so the things in your field need to come up. They have to be felt.
Right.
It's the only way for you to up level. And as you feel it, once you feel it, your frequency does go up. Now, for me, I didn't know that. And so many people don't
Me
know that,
either. Yeah, I
right?
was never told that.
So,
I feel like you and I
right.
discovered that on our own. Like I don't,
Yeah, I
yeah,
think we did probably. Exactly. And so a lot of times I would bury those things. And that's where toxic positivity comes in. Even when I was using the law of attraction, using positive thinking, when something would come up, I would think, well, I'm doing it wrong. So
right.
this, I should bury this down and not feel it and just put a positive sticker on it. Oh, okay. Well, I'm just going to think something better and I'm going to put that positive sticker on this and I'm not going to feel this. Well, then it still was in my energy field. And these were things from years past, feelings I hadn't felt, emotions I hadn't felt. And honestly, this is my real belief around karma that we bring in from other lifetimes. It's the emotions that we didn't feel, right? And
Hmm.
so these are the things that it's our responsibility to feel when we're in the human body. It's the only way to alchemize them into something else, right? So it's both, right? It's other lifetime we bring up when we're bringing up something in our current experience, we can bring it up to
Yeah.
release from another lifetime as well. So that's kind of
All
that
comes
was my
down to
journey
emotions.
around it. And then of course later
Yeah.
on, as things were progressing in my awakening, maybe 12 years ago, I had to, I really dove deep into like energy work and the healing work and the shadow work and EMDR and trauma work. And I had to start to feel. I had no choice, right? I was just my body
Right.
was like screaming at me to just feel the things and stop putting a positive sticker on it because that really wasn't going to get me the manifestation anyway because I wasn't closing the gap between where my frequency was and where I wanted to be. I had to feel the things to take the steps up the
Right.
staircase in frequency. So that's when, you and I probably discovered that. And then we met about 10 years ago. And
Yeah.
yeah, and I was deep in you too, in the process of feeling. And I remember, and you can share more about this, but I remember how you told me, you said to the universe, okay, I'm going to go through this process like you knew it was happening, and I want to feel everything.
I
And
did say
you
that.
hadn't
Yep.
felt anyway. So share your experience of how you
Yes. Yeah.
experienced the
Well,
toxic
and
positivity.
yeah, and just a little backstory quick too. And I know a lot of people, a lot of women are in our age group. I'm smack dab in the middle of Gen X. Being raised in that generation, it was an emotionless childhood, right? You weren't allowed to feel anything. If you think about it, even as with babies, what is the first thing oh, shh, 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 we don't want them to cry. It's like we were trained from birth to not express anything. And so then consequently, I went to college and I met my now ex-husband, but I met my husband and our whole marriage, I was modeling, and so was he, after what we saw from our parents, which is you don't argue, you avoid arguing at all costs, you don't bring up any of the negative stuff, you just focus on the positive and you keep going. And that creates such this huge, like you were saying, a mountain of emotion. This creates a whole mountain range of emotion underneath the relationship that is never addressed. And eventually it destroys you. And with our parents' generation, they just stuck it out. They just shut down and stuck it out and never got divorced. If, not that they all needed to, but you know what I'm saying is they never dealt with it. And so many of them are as they're beginning to cross over in that generation, it's like they never figured it out. And so it's up to us to be this transition generation, right? Which is not super fun. But my entire marriage, it was like, oh no, and I felt like it was my job, right? As the wife, it's my job to make sure we don't ever fight, and oh no, I'm going to avoid conflict and all this jazz. And so then when I started to come into this world, right, and realize that I had to, and like you said, 10 years ago is when I really started to feel. And so I come into this world and I was still married and I thought that I had this fairy tale marriage and start realizing that I wanted more, I wanted deeper communication. And it's not that he's not a deep feeling person, but when we started to go that direction, we realized we weren't compatible. And it's like, and we had been pretending for years, just going through the motions like our parents had done. And we're both good people. We're both magical people. We're good parents. We were always good friends. But when we started to delve deeper into a deeper connection, we were like, well, we want different things. Like we want totally different things for our lives. And so the marriage fell apart. And I've been in other relationships where it's like the other person is like, I don't dwell on the negative. Okay, that's something a lot of us say, right? A lot of people say, I don't dwell on the negative. But are you healing it? Are you avoiding it, right? Like it's an avoidance tactic. And so, yeah. And so coming into this world, it was like, it was huge, very similar experience as you, as we've always, as we have been so aligned in our journey. It's like I started to feel, and you feel like you're coming apart at the seams, but at the same time, there's this beauty in it, right? This freedom in it, where you're like, holy crap, like if I had just learned to do this from birth, I could have felt this, right? And I think now, for both of us, right, as aligned as we are, we're coming out of kind of this fog that we've been in, both you and I. And now we're feeling this real, true freedom to express things that maybe we just had tapped into. Since 2024, even for me, it's like, oh my gosh, I had no idea that some of the things that I have been even teaching other people, teaching clients, I hadn't really experienced on a deeper level. I feel like the last 2, 3 weeks since we chose this topic for this video, I really was pushed through it and had to realize, oh my gosh, I like doubled down on the toxic positivity for a while there. And so
Okay.
it's a realization, and it's
Yeah.
been an incredible aha for, I think, for both of us. And I think we all have to go through that space of I'm just going to be positive all the time because I
Yeah.
don't want to feel these negative things. But really, that's where the growth is, and that's where the beauty is, and that's where you're going to find your freedom, is
Mhm.
digging through the emotions that we have deemed negative or scary or unhealthy even, right? It's like you have to go down in there. You have to
Yeah.
dive deep in there
Yeah. Well, if you want to grow, yeah.
if you want to
If you
grow. And some
if you
people
don't want to
don't.
grow, then
Yeah,
absolutely you do not have. You don't have to do anything you don't want to do.
right. Right.
But
And if you're in a
usually you
growth,
might get pushed off a cliff, though.
well, like, yeah, how many cliffs? I've lost track of how many cliffs I've been pushed off.
Same.
Um, yeah, it's just because we do hold on. We want, and light workers, anybody who's watching this likely is a light worker, right? And you understand the savior complex. We come in thinking we have to save everybody, even when we know that's not the truth. We still, on a daily basis, will find ourselves trying to drag somebody with us, right? Or convince them to see the way the things that we're seeing, or trying to talk them into something. And it's like ultimately all you can do is live your best life in every moment and allow that to create everything around you, right? It's like really, I think we were talking about this before we hit record. It's like really what this comes down to is we're being asked to enjoy every moment and to see the beauty in every moment, even when we're in a pit, even when we're feeling something that we have decided from past experience doesn't feel good. we're being asked to really dig in and see the beauty in that. And then we're allowing ourselves to live in the moment, which is the whole point. Because
Yeah.
that's all we've got is right now and right now,
Right.
right
And then
now.
the next moment, and the next
Yeah.
moment.
Yeah.
Definitely. Oh my gosh. I have so much to add to that. I love it. That was so awesome. Yeah, I
Oh,
loved everything you were saying. I was like,
it's been
yes,
so much a bigger part of my life than I thought until we started
yeah,
going down this road.
really, really, really. And I loved what you said about relationships too. And I think it can be a coping thing, and not
Sure.
that it's the greatest coping thing in the world, but I think sometimes when we just need it in certain moments to just see through the rose-colored glasses of something, and then of course that doesn't serve forever, and so the glasses do come
Right.
off at some point. But I think it's just, as humans, we do create coping things, and one of those things can be toxic positivity. And it's not like you're never going to do it again, or I'm never going to do it again.
Right.
It's
Right.
just
Right.
that we can create awareness around this. Just like what I've been saying, there's a couple of things that, well, there's a lot of things I've been saying, but one of them
Right.
I'm thinking of is how um, there's so much more awareness around toxic and abusive relationships. Yet there is not a lot of awareness yet around toxic and abusive relationships in a work environment,
Oh,
especially
yeah.
related to toxic masculine and control and manipulation of women in workspace environments. And
Right.
so that's something that, just like this, like what we're saying now, this is just something to bring awareness to. We're not saying that it'll never happen again or whatever, but it's just like all
Right.
these different things that have happened throughout history that have been accepted. It's like, okay, like let's really look at this for what it is. And those were
Hmm.
just a couple of examples that came up in my mind. So authenticity I wanted to hit on is what you were talking about. And as you move up and in your ascension process, you're slowly doing this, you're actually moving up the ladder of frequency. And you can find templates of this online. Abraham Hicks has one. It's great. There's different frequency. There's like guilt and shame sits at one, and of course, like
Right.
you have all different things in your energy field. So it's kind of an average of what's going on. It's not like you're just sitting at guilt and shame. You could in a certain moment be, but like,
Sure.
there's all different things going on, right? In your field. So it's like, where are you kind of sitting? Like, what's your set point? Right. Like I have a family member who really sits in the frequency of disappointment all the time. And so she calls to her everything that could be disappointing and even tries to create disappointing things. Like I've watched it for years and I'm like, okay, well, I can't stop you from creating those disappointing things. I
Yeah.
can point out that she's doing it, but I don't know that she really cares. Like it's still a sabotaging, like I'm going to create disappointment.
Right.
So it's just kind of looking at where's your natural set point. And then as you're moving up in the ascension process, you actually are moving up in frequency. And so you're moving up in those categories. And
Right.
you
And
eventually, one
changing
of
that
them,
set point, right?
you're
Yeah.
changing the set point. One of them is enlightenment. And then actually authenticity, believe it or not, is the highest vibration. And this speaks to what you were talking about. Authenticity is actually freedom because it's actually allowing yourself to completely be in the now moment, feeling whatever you feel in the moment, feeling completely safe in whatever that feeling is, and just allowing yourself to be
Hmm.
whatever you are without judgment, and it's like a
Hmm.
complete acceptance of wherever you're at in any given
Right.
moment. And you can feel people are very attracted to people that have the vibe of authenticity because it's a really powerful frequency. It feels really good to be in the presence of someone that is an authenticity. You do
Right.
feel completely accepted by that person, and they accept themselves entirely, and they see themselves and they see you. And so it's just such a it's a place for us all to work toward.
Right. I was
And
gonna
we're
say we
always
strive for that as
we're
practitioners,
yeah,
right?
we're working towards that, right? And
Mm.
it's a lot like I always in my book, remember I use the analogy of it's like kind of like taking off all these heavy clothes that we've been
Yeah.
wearing. And the clothes are kind of like those different frequency set points, like all the guilt and shame, that coat has to come off. The coat of anger. It's not that you never, ever, ever experience these again. You just see them through a different lens, right?
Right. Right.
They're not like the coats that you wear anymore, right? So it's like
Right.
you're taking off these coats as you're going through your ascension and awakening process until you're just, it's like I equate it to just being completely naked. Like you're just naked to the world. Like you are like you're just, I mean, I'm not saying like you're physically naked. Like
Right, but
obviously we
raw
have
and
laws, like
real.
people wear clothes and like,
Darn
and
it.
we like to, we get cold or
Yeah.
whatever, but but it's like your energy field is naked to the
Hmm.
world. Like you are what you are, and you've accepted all of your shadow and your light, and you are like you're in a complete zone of acceptance. And so that's what I wanted to say in relation to that. Like, and
Hmm.
I would suggest anyone, if you're interested in hearing about the different frequency set points, actually look up an Abraham Hicks. It's like it looks like a pyramid. I can't think of the exact name of it. I don't know if you can, but there's a lot of
Yeah,
different
yeah, I know
ones
what
you
you're
can
talking
find,
about.
but it's the same categories of frequency. It's very interesting to look at. And I think grief is the lowest, but if you think of grief, like I always think of it as a circle as well. If you feel grief coming on and you just allow yourself to just grieve whatever it is, on the other side of that is then again the highest frequency, right? So it's almost like they touch like the lowest. To me, it's like more like a
Right.
circle, like the lowest
Yeah.
and the high. So underneath the grief is then again the joy or the
It's the,
whatever, the
or if
love,
you think it's the
the highest.
Ouroboros, right? It's like
Yeah.
it's the
Ooh.
regeneration. And
Yeah,
every
the
time
toroidal field.
it's the
Yeah.
snake eating itself, right? It's the you come to the
Yes.
bottom and then you're at the top.
Hmm.
Yeah, we
You're
have
at
to
the
allow
top.
ourselves to feel it all. Yeah, I love that. And
Mhm.
it's so important too to not to really realize to not intentionally do it, right? But to realize that on the other side of it, that that was all part of your process. And to not
Mhm.
beat ourselves up for being where and we're going to have moments where we're like, nope, I don't want to feel this. And like you said, it's
Yeah.
like it's okay. It's okay to put it aside for a little bit. We're human. This is the whole point of having this human experience. But maybe we can find that and we'll try to link it what you're
Yeah,
talking
one
about, and
of
we'll try to
those.
link
Yeah.
it
Yeah,
below.
yeah.
I will try to find that as I'm editing. But yeah, it's the be here now, right? And
Yeah.
it's the whole it is the whole point of the of this experience is to because what do they say? It's like when we live in the past, that's depression. When we live in the future, fear of the future, that's anxiety. And so right in the middle is the sweet spot. That's where we're supposed to be, is right in the middle, is not being sad about the past because it's over. You're not going that way. And not being afraid of the future because you're creating it. It's harder than it sounds, right? It's this
Yeah,
is the whole process.
it can be. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think some of that is looking through the lens of things slightly differently, like doing a reframe on yourself when you're like, oh, all this bad stuff is happening. And I don't mean this in a toxic positivity way. I just mean it in a that can be sort of a pattern, and maybe looking at it like, wait, like if I remove myself a little bit back from this and sort of zoom out, is it really bad? Or is it
Yeah.
neutral? Can I get a little more neutral around it? Or is it ultimately leading me, like I said in the analogy I used around manifestation, is it ultimately leading me to my manifestation? Is it releasing the things from my life that are not part of that manifestation, right? And
Right.
you talk a lot about the letting go. I mean, that's one of your platforms, and your main
Hmm.
topics is like you gotta let go when you're
Yeah.
bringing in when you're calling something in, right? You're making space when you let
Make
go.
I was
And
just gonna say
let
that.
me,
Yeah.
I
Making
want to
space.
share a little bit about that process that we did in the Goddess Society, because I love that making space process for money.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
And I
Yes.
know this is not necessarily related to toxic positivity, but I did love that process because I feel like it's a great analogy for making space.
Right.
So I love this process, and it's creating a vacuum, and it's like the vacuum law of the universe, right? And that is the universe abhors a vacuum. And so when there is a vacuum, which is just an empty space, it wants to fill the space, right? Like that's the feminine. The feminine wants to fill up the space, right? The
Right.
masculine is the structure. So
Hmm.
when you create a structure that has an empty space in it, and we were doing bank account work in the Goddess
Right.
Society around calling in wealth or related to our life purpose. And so we expanded the space and created a vacuum and then had a conversation with it about what we want in that space, right? And so you can do this with other things in your life. Like for me, when I really wanted to be an author, I would take a bag with me when I would go places where I would really love to share my book, but I didn't have a book at the time. But I would make a space in the bag and I would pretend like the book was in the bag with me, right?
Hmm.
And so it was like eventually the universe filled that space with my book. Like the
Yeah.
space became, so you can do this with anything in your life, but it's
Yeah.
just and two, sometimes back circling back to the letting go, you have to let go of something in your life that's taking up the space where the thing that you're asking for is actually going to fit into the space. So
Right.
then it creates a
That's,
vacuum
yeah.
by letting go of the thing.
When we do these processes and they don't tell you that you're going to be faced with all these things that are in the way, that's what's coming up is the things that are when you want something to be in a certain in your energy and there's no room, you have to make room when you set that. It's actually a beautiful thing, and it should confirm to you that how powerful you are when you set an intention and set a goal that this is what I want in my energy, and I want to be in the energy of it and click over into that frequency where it already exists, right? We talk about you talk about that all the time. Well, then the things that are in the way is what's coming up. And it could be very likely, it's very uncomfortable, and it could be really old, whatever it is that's coming up. Sometimes we don't even know what's going to come up and we just have to surrender to that. And I don't want to scare anybody. I don't think anybody should be afraid of this process. Angie and I have worked, a decade doing this, and it's not always fun. But when you're aware of what it is, you can have a different perspective. Like you were saying, reframe it, have a different perspective of what's going on. That it's, oh, I'm making space. Here I go. And I'm going to let myself feel it. And so honestly, I have been in the grocery store pushing my cart around and crying.
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
I could not, had to get the grocery
same.
shopping. I was already in there, right? Had to get the shopping done. And so I feel safe in there, to be honest, which is kind of funny. But so yeah, it's really about allowing yourself to feel whatever you need to feel. And obviously, you can go to the public restroom if you don't want to sob in front of their shoppers. But it really is getting to that point where you're like, I'm just going to feel. And honestly, if there was somebody else in the store that day who saw me, right, and thought, I wish I was that brave, right? Look how brave she is, right? To just
Mhm.
feel it in the moment and whatever. If I planted a seed for anybody, fabulous. Like that's even better than what I was doing internally, was just actually letting myself feel. It emanates. Everything we do emanates out to other people and plants seeds or inspires people. So, but yeah, I wanted to say that's exactly what's happening when you set on a path of a new process and then you're like, why do I feel worse? Well, you're making room for it. You're making
Yeah.
room for that beautiful new stuff. So you're doing it. And I want to make it clear that it's like you should be celebrating that. Oh, yes, stuff's coming up. Yay, I did it. Like, here we go.
Yeah.
We're on the road and there's no going back. I mean,
Yeah.
you can put the kibosh on it, but you don't want
Yeah.
to.
No, 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 no.
No,
Because
keep going.
there's a reason that those desires are placed in your heart. So you don't want to put the
Absolutely.
kibosh on them. And I think what we're trying to get at, just to sort of recap, if anyone's gotten lost in our get back and forth here, is
In our
just
spirals.
when you're in the process and emotions come up, feel them, don't bypass them. And what Wendy was saying is you don't even have to know where they're coming from. She's just crying in the grocery store for no reason. You don't have to tie it back to a
Yeah. Don't
memory
worry about
or
figuring it out.
you
Yeah.
don't have to figure anything out. And I think that's the thing is our brain wants to get involved and it's like, oh, well, then I must be upset because, and then you're making a list or whatever. But it's like, no, just feel it because it's stuck in your
Right.
energy field from somewhere, sometime, some lifetime, this
Absolutely.
lifetime, whatever, and just let it release, let it go through the entire process of releasing so that it doesn't become buried and become the mountain we were talking about
Right.
earlier. And then you're clear and you just upticked. You're going up in frequency, even though
Absolutely.
you might have read or thought or seen something about manifestation that said, no, I have to constantly hold this frequency of joy or whatever. Actually, in order to do that, you're going to dip down into something, release it, and
Hmm.
then actually elevate and keep elevating
Yeah.
like that. So yeah,
Absolutely.
it's important just to feel what you feel. And if you find yourself spiraling into your head, your mind is what will get you stuck in an emotional
Right.
set point. If you find yourself spiraling into thoughts around it, just get out of the thoughts around it. Just even tell yourself, I'm just going to release this emotion. It's not about attaching it to a thought because the thought will
Hmm.
get you stuck there, right? The thought
Right.
will like perpetuate it. Well, here's why you feel it. And then you're going around and around. Let the thought go, feel the
Right.
thing, and then you'll come out the other side on the other side of that. So
Yeah.
that's, I think that's the important thing that I've learned. And I've, believe me, went into the thoughts around it, got stuck there for 3 days or whatever, right? And then finally I'm
Right.
going, this is,
And the
I don't need to be stuck here. This is
Oh.
ridiculous.
And
You
the
know?
funny thing is that actually, it's actually counterproductive if you think about it, because trying to figure it out is your brain coming in and trying to get you out of feeling it, right? And so
Yeah,
what happens is then you latch onto it and you end up feeling it really uncomfortably just under the surface for longer than if you would just let
exactly.
it come through. And so
Yeah,
it,
just
it actually does the opposite of what you think it's doing. It's you holding on to it when you refuse to feel it or refuse to look at it. And so yeah, it's kind of a trap. It's one of those traps that we discover along the way on our spiritual journey. So it's essentially not wanting to be where you are
yeah,
when you try to when
yeah.
you come in and when and the brain will come in and do it, the ego will come in and do it, try to figure out, ooh, what's going on here. If we can figure it out, then you won't have to feel
Mhm.
it anymore. And
Yep.
that's really
No,
not the way
doesn't
out.
work.
It's you just have to kind of crumble. You have to let yourself crumble. So yeah, I'm just looking at my notes. We were talking about how it's essentially bypassing when you really, like you were saying, when you get stuck there, you can get stuck there for months, even years, even decades, and it causes illness in the body. It causes, dis-ease, as we say in our, in the woo-woo world, right? Instead of disease, because that's essentially what it is a dis-ease in the energetic bodies. And we have to manifest as humans, or manifest, we process everything through the physical body. At some point it's got to come through the physical body to process through your energy. And so it's when we hold on to things, it causes illness. And
Yes.
so letting go, I mean, I've talked to people. I know people are always like, oh, well, the studies show. I know people personally who have healed big things. You and me, we both have healed big things by just going down into the core emotions and allowing ourselves to feel them. And we're digging out the illness by doing that. And we heal. When you can go into the core emotion and find the wound and dig it out and really dig it out, let yourself dig it out and be there, right? Be there in that healing moment, then you can heal anything. So that's with the disclaimer, obviously, go to
Yeah.
your doctor. Go to your doctor if you need to, if your intuition is leading you to, and do what your doctor says if your intuition is leading you. Do whatever feels right for you. But this was my experience.
It's so true. I want to tag onto that a little bit about other people's energy and how
Mm,
that can create disease in your body, dis-ease. I don't want to
absolutely.
say, and yes, our disclaimer is we're not claiming to treat or cure or diagnose any diseases or illnesses, just so everyone
No.
is clear on that.
Yeah. We are not
Um,
medical
no,
professionals in
we
any
are
way.
not. We're speaking to our own experience here. And I know other people's energy in your field is a real thing, and you can pick it up and you can decide that, you have, it's especially as an empath, right? So much compassion and empathy for someone else's experience that you can sort of take on that energy and think that you're helping someone process through it, although you actually can't do it for them, although you can think that you're helping, right? And so
Yeah.
I
Tell
remember a
yourself.
time when I discovered exactly what you were talking about, to go into the core of something. And it was my low back pain that I had had for years. I had a herniated disc. I had, this blah, 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 blah. And this just went on and on. And then something happened in my childbirth process and, not my birth, but one of my kids.
Oh,
And it set it off again, and it was just this like, oh my gosh, thing that was like my Achilles heel forever, right? That was my Achilles heel. And what I discovered when I was in a session, I was doing a session on a crystal bed and having an energy session. And I really dove into the core root of that. And I found that it wasn't even mine. It was a family member that I had took on their back pain for
mm,
them years prior when I was a child. I was trying to help them to be better so that our relationship could be better, all the things, right? Like, so that they could feel better, so that they could have a
right,
better life, so that, they would be able to spend time with me, things that a kid would think, right?
right.
In their mind, like, how can I help? I can do this. and took it on, carried it with me all those years. And then I had a ceremony in that moment on that crystal table saying, I cannot carry this for you any longer. This is yours, and I have to give it back to you. I have other things I need to do now. And so I returned it to sender, returned to the owner.
Yep.
And it was me. I wasn't a victim. It was me. I took it on originally, but I was just closing
Right.
out the cycle of, hey, I did take this on for you, but I have to give it back to you now. And so and these things happen as they do unconsciously. Of course, I was not conscious that I did that. And so when you start to become conscious, and, the awakening process is very much like that, you're becoming conscious of different parts of yourself, different aspects, different, your shadows, like we said in the shadow work process, every piece of yourself you're accepting. And so it's like, there isn't anything I could have done differently. I was unconscious. And then when you
Mhm.
become conscious, then it's different. You make different choices, right? You wouldn't do
Right.
that the same way. You might not pick up on someone else's energy. You might be more conscious about sending away, especially
Mhm.
if you're a practitioner, an empath of any kind, sending away people's energy at the end of the day, making sure you're sending things back where they came from, and then
Right.
calling all of your own energy back to you.
We
Daily
highly
practice.
recommend doing this daily. Yeah, even morning
Yeah.
and night. Especially, I have found, I've been letting go of people, places, things, right? This
Mhm.
eclipse window really asked us to let go of things, and it's just been a several times a day for me lately, and that's okay, whatever is needed. But I love that you pointed out that you were not the victim. Even as a child, when we take on things, if we view it as being, if we stay in that victim energy, then that's just perpetuating it too, right? That's just keeping us, not toxic positivity, obviously, right? But it's keeping us in that victim mode when we feel bad about, well, how dare, they give it to me. Well, you took it. Even I don't care if you were 5.
Mhm.
You still took it. Your soul's not 5, and your soul agreed to take it on. And I will say too, like one experience that I had with taking on somebody else's energy is ultimately what it did for me is helped me heal a deep wound. When I found, we had a mutual mentor that we've talked about a lot, but I had, that person had put a lot of energy in me that I had to remove, but ultimately I became aware of it through a really horrible infection. But what it did for me was not only did I purge that person's energy, but there was my own underneath that in the same space that I was able to heal. It was respiratory stuff that I'd had my whole life. I was a blue baby, which if you don't know the term, from the late 60s, early 70s, it's when they started completely numbing women who were in labor so they couldn't feel a thing. That medicine got to the babies and they couldn't, and it killed a lot of babies. But I was born blue, not breathing or whatever. And so I came into this world not knowing how to breathe. And so I had all this respiratory stuff, and that ultimately helped me heal that too. When I got through like all of that other person's stuff that was in there, that's what was underneath, and it was getting dredged up. So I can have so much gratitude for that now, even though it was not fun to live through that experience. I can look back and go, wow, that really, because I have had zero respiratory issues since then, and it was a lifelong thing. And so we have to really, and that's not toxic positivity, that's gratitude. Very different, right?
Yeah, I remember, when you went through that, and me with similar things, like
Yeah,
that. So,
absolutely. Yeah.
yeah. And then it brings awareness to where you're not, where you've given your energy away and you need to call it back. Because if we're calling our energy back and filling up our own space with our own energy each day,
Right.
and of course with our connection to source energy, right, all the time, and that's flowing through us, then we're not taking on things. We don't have, there isn't space to take on other people's stuff, right? Because we're
Right.
filled up. We're filled
Right.
up with the things we want to be filled up with. One practice that I really love, and two, again, this will kick out things in your energy field. It will make you feel things, just FYI.
Mhm.
It's not a
Mhm.
bad thing, but fill up with what you want to feel. Like if you want to feel bliss, and you want to feel joy or whatever, right? Love, whatever feeling you want to have throughout the day, fill up with that feeling. Like every part of your body, your molecules, your spaces in between, your bubble, your body, right? Just fill it up with it. And then of course, this is a way to allow these things to become your set point, right? But
Hmm.
again, don't be alarmed. Things that are not part of that energy will come up at first when you're not, if you're not used to it, right? And that's not a bad thing at all. This
No,
is
it's
the
a
way
great
forward.
thing.
This is just another way. That's just another way to go through shifting your energy from one space to another, from one set point to another. So yeah, I think that the dark side, we shouldn't even say dark side, but like sort of
Right.
the negative
The flip
aspect
side.
of this, the flip side is what people don't talk about. It's like, why do I feel the opposite? And the law of polarity, I think we've
Hmm.
talked about that on this podcast before. The law of polarity also states that whenever you're asking for something, a lot of times immediately you'll receive the opposite
Hmm.
in certain situations, not always,
Yeah.
but the law of
Yeah.
polarity does bring that up. But really, I think ultimately to describe what the law of polarity is, it's just things in your energy field that are not congruent with what it is that you're desiring and asking for. I mean, at the end
Yeah.
of the day, I think that's really what is
Right.
happening there. So I think that even describes the law better for our mental mind to be like, what?
Right.
So yeah.
Yeah. Well, and even learning, I remember learning and being in my Reiki master class, right? The level 3 class. It's like you learn or you're trained to, you tell your clients, at least I was told, you tell your clients, okay, after a session, you might feel off for a few days. But I didn't really understand the deeper meaning of that until very recently. It's like, oh, I get it now. You're feeling off because you're making room for a good Reiki master is going to help move energy so that you can see more clearly and you dive into the healing, right? They don't do it for you. And so because they've, kind of shifted energy or whatever they've been allowed to do to assist you in doing that, these things are coming up now to make room for the good stuff. And so when you set that intention, you're absolutely right. If you set that intention to, I'm going to fill my energy with these things, then it room has to be made. Like if you get a new couch, you have to take the old couch out first, right?
Right. That would be awkward if you just kept adding couches.
Just put it right on top. That's what we do. We just put the new couch right on top of the old one. They were like, why is this weird? Why doesn't it feel good? Why isn't it comfortable?
I need a ladder now to get to the my current
That's
couch.
actually a really good analogy. I didn't even realize it. So that's a pretty good analogy. Why do I have to climb
It's
up
really
six
good.
couches in your living room, Wendy, to sit down?
Right? Like I'm so
Because I
close
don't
to
know
the
how to let
ceiling now. I
go.
have to lay on it, right?
Yeah. It's like the Princess and the Pea. It's like, why does this feel weird? Well, I can't let go of anything. I'm not making room. I'm just piling it on top. Oh my
Right.
goodness.
Oh
Yeah.
my gosh, you are cracking me up. And I'm thinking of things in my life right now too, which is funny, of course, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
anyway,
Yes.
yeah, life is just yeah, it's it's a huge part of the process. Get rid of the old couches
Get rid of the
and
old,
sit
get
on
rid of
your
the
new
old.
couch.
Well, and I've often had, for years now, I've had the rule, I have a self-imposed rule that if I buy an item of clothing, then I have to get rid of one. Because I had, my closet was full, and so I was like, well, I'm not buying more hangers. So if I buy something, then I need to be ready to get rid of something. So typically you go through the getting rid of first, right? You purge, oh, I'm outgrown this. And then I would look at 5 empty hangers and go, oh, I can buy 5 things, right? And
That's
that's
awesome.
really served me in a very big way because I don't overdo it. And being hyper aware that that's a path I can go down when I'm not feeling good, I want to go spend money, right? And I've healed a lot of that. I don't feel that so much anymore. I didn't avoid feeling it, but I created kind of parameters around it so that I didn't, so that I would be aware when I started going down the road. Oh, I don't have another hanger, but I went and bought stuff. Okay, where am I? Like, where am I not feeling good, right? Because I knew that it was a coping mechanism.
Yeah,
So
piling
it
couches
just
on top
helped
of
me.
couches.
Piling couches on, putting 6 shirts on one hanger and saying, see, I didn't buy any new
Seriously,
hangers.
my daughter has done that. I can't put six dresses on one hanger.
And
Just
you're like,
six more
where's that
hangers.
dress? Oh, it's the third one in. You just can't see it. This was a much deeper topic than we thought. I feel like it really kind of gets its tentacles and everything. And like I said, I feel like it can be sneaky. Like you don't realize you're doing it because there is a fine line between focusing on creating joy and bliss and abundance and avoiding healing what you need to heal in order to bring that in, or being upset when you do set that intention, okay, I'm going to bring more joy and abundance in. Why do I feel worse? Like not understanding why you feel worse. You're making room. So I feel like in a way we need to, I kind of want the theme of this video to be, let's celebrate when those things are coming in, because then you know that you're on the path to the things that you want to create
Yeah.
because you're making
Yeah.
space.
Yeah. And then you don't have to wallow and get stuck in the thought of it. Just feel it,
Absolutely.
celebrate
Yeah.
it.
And then we teach our egos then that this is, hey, this is not okay. It's not what we're doing. You're
Yeah.
not coming in to avoid. We're gonna feel it all. And the ego just has to like be a witness, really.
Yeah.
So as you feel things.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Interesting. Because the soul is the witness of all the lifetimes, right? Like that the ego
Yeah.
has to experience that. That's great. I think we hit on everything because I just checked my list and I think we got it.
Yeah. So hopefully this helps anybody watching or listening, if help you become aware. And we're not, obviously we're not trying to throw shade on anybody. We are both guilty of this and we're not done doing it, right? We're like you said, we're going to do it here and there, but being aware breaks you free of the long time patterns of doing it. You got to feel the feels first. And I know it's cheesy, but you got to feel it to heal it. I think authenticity is a huge point. Authenticity equals freedom. It feels so free. And I think for you and I both, we're in a place where I've never felt so good, to be honest. And it's only getting better. And that doesn't mean that I'm going to be upset. Well, maybe I will be, right? Like if I have a bad day. But I also know my foundation of gratitude is going to constantly be giving me that soft place to fall where I go, okay, this is just temporary. This is a temporary situation and I'm moving through it. And I'm going to see the beauty in it while I'm down here.
One of my mentors, and it's such a great thing. I was in a really low point one time. I'll just add, this will be the last thing I'll add.
Yes,
This will be
yeah,
my
yeah,
wrap up.
I like it.
He said, Angie, you can enjoy everything. And I was like life changing for me. And then I was like, wow, like I can enjoy grief and I can enjoy whatever anger is like. And then I fell into like the deliciousness of every single
I
piece
love
of
that
it. And
word.
I was
Yeah.
like, oh, I love how delicious this like sadness is for me in this moment. I know this sounds really bizarre, but I did start to just allow myself to enjoy every element of the human experience. And that was incredibly freeing. And that is like, I feel like the components to authenticity is like starting to be able
Right.
to do that and just allow it and be actually an enjoyment of how unique this experience is and how special and different it is than like,
Right.
if you were just because if you were just love and light, which would be like your normal like state when you're not in a human experience,
Right.
well, then you don't have anything to compare it to. So you're just,
What
we
do you,
have
yeah, what are you
this
doing here?
juicy experience to compare
Right.
like things to and to say, oh, this is what love and light feels like. And this is what, and then we can just be in the deliciousness of all of it. Not that those things have to be your set point just because they're delicious for a moment. To have a deep
Right.
cry feels delicious. That doesn't have to be your set point, but you can start to just enjoy every single element of the now moment. And yeah, it was just a profound thing for me that he said. And then, I started
Absolutely.
sharing that with other people and in my courses and things like you can enjoy everything. That was my
There's
ad.
beauty in all of it. And then that helps you stay there for as long as you need to. Like I always tell my clients, stay in the pit as long as you need to. Don't build a full-time house there, right? A summer house is okay because you know when to go. When the weather gets cold, it's time to go. So then you climb out.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you don't want to sit there. And of course, when you embrace it and surrender to it, then you will know exactly when it's time to leave. It's when we don't want to be there and try to figure out a way to get out of there that we get stuck there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it works
100%.
against you. We promise. We've experienced it firsthand many
Hmm.
times.
Yeah, we have.
We know we're both literally writing books about all these experiences. So yeah, it's all good. So yeah, well, thank you very much, everybody, for hanging in there with us. Like, share, subscribe, follow, download, whatever platform you're watching or listening to us on, and we will see you in the next episode. Bye,
Bye,
goddess.
goddess.